Good morning, YouTube. It's G-Man5338 here again to talk to you today about PTSD. Yes, sir. We're going to delve back into the world of mental health because I want you all to get better. Before we get into it, a couple things I'm going to talk about. Number one, hey, look, new backdrop, okay? I guess maybe the flames from my fireplace there were messing with the focus on my iPhone. So today I dropped a flag behind me that's a Canadian flag. It used to fly at the embassy, the Canadian embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan, and it was given to me by the ambassador of Canada to Afghanistan towards the end of my last deployment there. And there's a little plaque. It was originally framed, and on the plaque it said, flown amongst friends in the face of the enemy. It's something, one of the few things that I keep with me from my time in the service to this day. It's something I'm very proud of. And it's a true story. There's a picture of it right here. Hey, check it out. All right, moving on from there. Well, let's talk about what else we're going to talk about today. We know it's going to be about PTSD, but it's going to be about my PTSD. Kind of how it started, sort of its effects on me, how I cope with it, what my level of disability is because of it. We'll talk about the fact that it is an actual brain injury and how it affects your brain. And then I've got my Blackwater hat on. Don't believe me, it's a Blackwater hat? Check it out, okay? So you know what that means? If I got my Blackwater hat on, it's story time, folks. So at the end of today's show, I got a story for everybody, but I'm warning you, it's way too much fucking information, okay? So, be forewarned, okay? I don't want any complaints in the comment section about it. Feel free to laugh. I don't care. There's one of the things I learned in the military was how not to have any shame. So go ahead, laugh at me. I don't care. It's all good. So we'll talk a little bit about my PTSD and kind of its history with me. This isn't going to be the easiest for me to talk about, so you have to forgive me if I take a little swiggy poo of my drinky poo. Yo folks, it's one of my coping mechanisms. It's not a healthy one, but it's something I do, okay? I don't want to hear about it in the comment section, okay? Just let me top up here and we'll get chatting. So my history with PTSD, it goes back quite a while to my very first deployment to the former Yugoslavia as a peacekeeper. When I came home from there, it's not that I had PTSD, but I had something called an OSI, which is an operational stress injury. PTSD is an OSI, but generally speaking, OSIs, it's not a clinical definition. It's something that the Canadian Armed Forces introduced to the world to try and help understand stress injuries. So it's like PTSD, but it doesn't quite meet the DSM-5 criteria that we talked about yesterday. So anyways, I came home with that, and there were definitely some warning signs. They screen you when you come home for this stuff. So some of my red flags were my drinking, so substance use. I couldn't sleep in a bed anymore, and I still can't. It's difficult for me. Either I need to be on a floor or a couch, something like that. I can't sleep in a bed anymore. And this is what I mean by it being an insidious beast. Imagine being married to somebody for almost 10 years, like my wife and I, and your spouse isn't able to curl up with you at night. You know what I mean? It causes issues with your relationships, your sex life, everything. But the key is knowing how to deal with it. So I came home kind of not right from Yugoslavia. And there was a change in my level of aggression too. I was very angry at the world, at things. I saw a lot of stuff and went through some stuff there that really affected my view of the world and people in general. And I was out at the bars all the time. I was looking for fights, looking for trouble. And that's never a good thing. And these are kind of warning signs for PTSD, right? We've talked about substance abuse. We've talked about destructive behavior, okay? So these are some of the red flags that were popping up. I wasn't paying attention to it. I didn't know. It's hard to see this stuff when you're living it, when it's you that's doing it, okay? So anyways, after my deployment to Yugoslavia, it wasn't long before, I was gearing up again to deploy to Afghanistan in the early years of the war. Now remember that Afghanistan was Canada's longest running war, and that we suffered the highest amount of casualties per capita over there, okay? We lost almost as many in Vietnam as we did in Afghanistan, okay? So let's put that into perspective for you, okay? Now, I deployed to Afghanistan. Again, I went through some serious shit out there. It seemed to me like, I had a black cloud over me everywhere I went. Like if something was going to happen to the battle group, it would happen while I was out, outside the wire, and it would happen to the convoy that I was on or the unit that I was with. It just seemed like that. There was nothing I could do to get around it. And that again, I think that's where my PTSD started. There are some incidents from that first tour that stay with me to this day, that I can't shake. So I came home for a little while. I tried to, do my best to get used to life again. It's stupid stuff, like I would wake up and I would be in a panic because I couldn't find my rifle. I couldn't find my gear. I didn't know where it was. I would be going out shopping sometimes and I would freak out because I couldn't find my pistol. It's surreal coming home from a war zone. Existence, it's not even life, you're just out there surviving and existing. You're not living, but when you come home from that kind of life, it's hard to get used to things, especially when you live in a country like Canada, okay? It's very difficult to get used to this life again. And I spent some time back in Canada for a while now. It was several years before I would deploy again. And I did back-to-back rotations in Afghanistan for my last two tours. And it was my third tour. So it was my second tour in Afghanistan, I should say, but my third tour overall, where I went through something that essentially broke my brain. That's the best way to describe it. And I started noticing over there at the time that my sleep was already messed up, but it was worse, like noticeably worse. I started relying heavily on NyQuil and alcohol to get sleep when I was allowed to sleep. There were very few of us on my last two tours in Afghanistan. I worked on a very small team, and there wasn't, much opportunity to get any pit time. You were on the go a lot, but when you could get it, you needed it, and you had to take advantage of it. And the only way I could do it was fucking NyQuil and booze, right? That's what I did to sleep. you know, there's some stuff from my policing career too, you know, that kind of stuck with me. When I came home from my last 2 tours in Afghanistan, I was in a we called it a general investigation section, but some people might call it like street crimes. I worked stuff that was, you know, too much for a uniformed officer to deal with, but too little for you know, a detective in a major crimes unit to deal with. And I ended up catching a kiddie porn case, and I was chasing a chomo. Sometimes we call them goofs here in Canada, or Herberts. But I ended up chasing this chomo down for 7 months. It was a hard case. I had a couple deaths that I had to investigate along the way too, and that didn't make things any easier. It was very difficult for me. So there are things too from not only my military career, but also my policing career that stay with me to this day. The things I don't know if I will get into on the channel here, some of them hurt too much. It digs too deep right now, and I don't really want to talk about it. Okay, forgive me, but if and when I'm ready to, we will, okay? I promise you that. Excuse me again. So, you know, when you're dealing with PTSD, like I said yesterday in yesterday's video, if you didn't watch it, by the way, check it out. I'll put the link in the comments below there. But it's like drinking from a fire hose. You know, your mind grabs onto something and it runs with it. It's like you have no control over it. There's no control over what sort of things your mind is going through. And this is, you know, you get into flashbacks like that. Sometimes, I don't know if any of you out there with PTSD watching this get it, but sometimes I get where I gap out or I lose time. You know, I get stuck in a memory and I'm there and I could be there for 20, 30 minutes and I have no idea of that passage of time. I have no idea what's transpired over that time. Sometimes it's scary. I was going to college a while ago for paralegal in my free time. And I was working like 12, 14-hour days in major crimes. I would get off work. I would drive my pasty ass on down to Toronto, where I would go to college for paralegal. And I remember coming home one night and I lost 20 minutes of the drive. 20 minutes behind the wheel, folks. Yeah, scary shit. All right. Yeah, it's frightening at times. And you know, things like that lead on to your anxiety because you don't want to go out now. You're scared to go out because not only can you not trust the environment around you, but you can't trust yourself. You don't know how you're going to react. And this is where coping skills come in huge, okay? You know, there are small things that we're going to talk about today. Things as simple as chewing gum to breathing exercises. We'll talk about some more major important things like trying to find anchors, like your family, loved ones, something important to you. You got to dig deep sometimes to find that shit, yo. And then we'll talk about some of the unhealthy ones. So we'll start off with some of the basic coping mechanisms, okay? Like I was saying, you know, some of the easiest things you can do and the most simplest things you can have in your little toolbox, if you want to call it that. This is your things to combat PTSD, not sort of to combat it, but to cope with it and to deal with it, okay? You need to consider something like a breathing exercise or chewing gum. These are very easy things that you can do. If you notice that you're coming into a triggered situation or you feel something coming on, pay attention to your breath. Start taking some deep breaths, okay? Try to relax yourself. Focus on the breathing, okay? Try chewing gum, okay? If you're a gum chewer, chew some gum. If you smoke cigarettes, pop one of them lung darts in your mouth and spark that bad boy up, okay? There's a reason why stuff like this works. Your mind can only do one thing at once. Despite what our old ladies are telling us, multitasking is BS, okay? Your brain can only do one thing at a time, all right? So if you are able to kind of put a wedge in before you take off on your PTSD trip there, if you can get a wedge in with like a piece of gum, some breathing exercises, or a cigarette, you're going to become focused on one of those things, and you'll get a bit of a break from that PTSD takeoff, and then you can employ some other tactics, okay? We'll talk about those in later shows. But these are 3 things that everybody can do. So if you're a smoker, hey man, I ain't gonna, no judgment here, yo. Light one of them up, okay? Try some breathing exercises. Chew gum. Buy some crazy ass flavored gum, like pickles and chocolate. Shove that stuff in your yap. Chew it down, okay? Pay attention to the flavor, all right? This is why you need some kind of shocking flavor, because you need something that is gonna catch your attention, all right? And this is one of the reasons why I have Ruckus. He's really apt at catching me when I'm having my moments. And a lot of times he'll come over to me, he'll start biting my hands, he'll bite my ankles, he'll lick my face at times. He seems to know. So there are things, like if you can get a wedge in before you kind of take off, before you reach 100, these are things you need to do. Put something like that in your toolbox. One of the other things that I use is my family. I hate to think of them as that I use them, but I need them, I love them, they love me, and so I have to accept the support. So a lot of times I look to the comfort of my family. It helps to ground me, it helps me to realize that I'm actually in Canada. I'm not out there in the shit anymore. I'm not looking for work. None of this, right? I'm at home, okay? I'm in my castle. My home is my castle, and I'm safe here, okay? So that's kind of one of the things I do is anchoring. I look for something very important to me. When I was really low and suicidal, that's what really kept me going was my wife and my kids. So find yourself an anchor. Dig deep. I know it's hard, but you got something, find it. Okay? And now we'll talk about some of the unhealthy stuff I do. You've been watching it through the video? Yes, sir. I likes me some drink. Yes. I know it's not good, but I mean, there's sometimes when I just need an immediate pain kill, and that's what does it for me. That's the monkey on my back. I try to keep my shit maintained when it comes to my alcohol consumption. I'm sober when my kids need me, and I don't let it interfere with anything else in my life. At least I try not to let it get like that. My drinking isn't every day, but I do, I jones for a drink when I'm not drinking. So I know that I've got a problem with it, and I know that it's not healthy, but I manage it, and it works. But you might find yourself using alcohol or drugs to manage your issues, okay? And it's something you need to be cognizant of. If you don't have the willpower to manage this shit on your own, you need to accept the fact that you've got a problem and you need to seek help for it, because it's gonna make things a lot worse, all right? So those are some of the main things that I wanted to talk about. Some of my other coping mechanisms are my hobbies. You know, I draw, I tattoo, I pinstripe, I airbrush, I play guitar, I play drums. You know, I try to stick with that stuff. Now, not every day is it possible for me to do that stuff. You know, like sometimes I'm just having a pity party, yo. I just feel like shit. I'm depressed. I can't help it. It's part and parcel of my issues. Because with PTSD, generally you suffer from anxiety disorder and depression, okay? So it's very difficult still to maintain the things that you know, you like. And it comes down to every day when I come to, normally it's from a nightmare. But when I come up from that, I say today, I'm gonna live. I'm not gonna be a passenger in this shit, you know. I'm going to make it through today. I'm going to try to be active, and that's the next thing I want to talk about, is being active while you've got PTSD. For me, you know, I don't leave the house all that often. It's very difficult for me to do it. But I try to have little things, you know, little carrots for myself. You know, like you're trying to lead a donkey somewhere, you got to put a carrot in front of that mule's face to get him to go where you want him to go. So I put a little carrot in front of my face, you know, things I want to do. So I bought a motorcycle. Like I've been into riding for a while. I used to be in an MC, and I love to ride, but I had to lose it because of the PTSD. But I found a way around that. Okay, I love to fish. I love the outdoors. I love shooting. I can't shoot guns. Number one, I don't like the noise anymore. I don't like the smell of it. Number two, because of the laws in Canada, my mental health conditions, the medicine I'm on, can't do it. Okay, so what did I do to get around it? I got into pellet guns. All right, I got into air gunning. You know, there's all sorts of stuff you can do. The key is to know your limits. And it's taken me almost 7 years to come to understand and accept what my limits are. And so I try to play within them. And it gives me freedom in doing that, because I have control over things. Now, we're getting on here. I want to get into story time quickly, but I got to give you that warning again. It is too much fucking information. If you're easily offended, okay, you got to shut this shit down right now, okay? But I'm telling you right now, if you just stick it out, you listen to the story, there's some positive stuff for you to take from it. You know, whether you think you've got terrible anxiety issues or you need something inspirational, this is a story for you, okay? This is one of the worst anxiety attacks I ever had, all right? My wife and I were traveling. We were coming back from Iceland. If any of you haven't been there, maybe you shouldn't go, okay? Let's be honest, all right? Now, so we're flying home from Iceland. I hate traveling. I hate being on an airplane. Hate it, okay? I'm anxious before I get on the plane. I don't want to do this. You know, I'm like a cat on the way to the vet. You know, you gotta peel my shit off the ceiling to get me on the plane anymore. And so we're on the plane. I've had a couple of drinks so I can fall asleep. I fall asleep. I have one of my terrible nightmares. I wake up from the terrible nightmare almost in an instant anxiety attack because my nightmare is so bad. It's something that happens to me often. And no sooner do I come to out of this nightmare than our plane hits turbulence. What happens? Holy Lord, thunder and Jesus, bye. I shit my drawers, right? And any of you who go through a lot of stressful situations frequently, you'll know that stress sweat, it doesn't smell like regular sweat. And the same thing applies to yo shit. When you stress and you shit because you're stressed, it doesn't smell like regular shit. Now, regular shit doesn't smell good on a good day, okay? But stress shit smells 10 times worse, okay? So I'm touching cloth here. It ain't solid, you know, it's like I just threw up out my butthole, okay? And now I'm stuck in a tin can at 20,000 feet. I haven't got a spare pair of gitch on the plane with me. What the hell do you do now? Well, I calmly collected myself and my shit, literally, made my way to the aisle. I put a hand over my butthole, and I prayed that we didn't have a mudslide, made my way to the bathroom. I took my shorts off, and I literally ripped my underwear off of myself because I knew if I was pulling that down my legs, okay, it was going to be even messier. And there ain't no way you're cleaning that up in an airplane bathroom, okay? Now, I'm in the middle of an anxiety attack. My PTSD is flaring up, and I am covered in feces. Awkward! All right, it's kicking up my social anxiety even more. But here's this thing, is that I had a plan, I stuck with it, and, you know, nobody knew. Okay? So if you think you're having a bad day with your anxiety, remember that story, because it could always be worse, right? There's always somebody who's worse off than you, and there's always somebody who's doing a little better than you, okay? Remember that, okay? You are who you are, and you're where you're at. Okay, don't try to compare yourself to other people, all right? But remember, just remember that, you know, maybe you get dizzy, you know, something like that. You have an awkward social moment. That, my friends, shitting your pants at 20,000 feet in a tin can is an awkward social moment. But I'm here to tell the tale, okay? And this is something you need to remember when you have PTSD and depression. Okay, you gotta hang in there. You gotta find something. Okay, and this is why I want you to hit me in the comment section. I want you to email me, talk to me. Okay, if you're having issues, you know, we'll get each other through this stuff. All right. So keep watching, subscribe, like, share, comment. Okay, I want you to stick with me here because I'm sticking with you. All right. Thanks for being with me today. Thanks for sticking with me so far. The rest of the week, we're going to talk about some happier stuff, yo. All right? You know, maybe tomorrow we'll look at my motorcycle. I got maybe some happy stories to talk about from being in the military and overseas. Maybe we'll talk about the time a dragon came to meet me, or we'll talk about my pet lion. Hey, come on. Not just clickbait, folks. Check it out. Stay tuned. Be good. Be safe. Peace.